and welcome to the regular school board meeting for Independent School District 833. It is Thursday, November 15th, 2018 at 6:30 p.m. and we are at the District Service Center in Cottage Grove, Minnesota. 1.0 is our roll call.
Pat Driscoll.
Present.
Heather Hirsch is absent. Michelle Whitty is absent. Katie Schwartz.
Here.
Sharon Van Leer is absent. Ron Kath.
Here.
Tracy Burnett.
Here.
Hannah Poore.
Here.
Lindsay Strom.
Here.
Sunny Yimmer is absent.
2.0, if you would please join me in Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Three point oh is the approval of our agenda. And we have one amendment. We are going to add 10.2, action item 10.2, and that is the approval of a memorandum of agreement between United Teachers of South Washington County and Independent School District 833. And with that, I will entertain a motion to approve the format of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ron and second by Pat. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 4.0, district highlights. 4.1 is our 3M donation, and our assistant superintendent, Kristine Schaefer, will present.
Good evening, Chair Burnett, school board members, Dr. Jacobus, and student reps. I'm pleased to be here tonight to introduce Dan Carlson, Site Director of 3M Cottage Grove, to share a partner highlight with our community. 3M has long supported our schools with a variety of resources like product donations, volunteers, matching, and cash grants. Just a few weeks ago, 110 high school students attended the annual 3M Cottage Grove Career Day, where they toured the facilities and learned about careers in the workplace. 3M also recently funded $61,000 for a variety of grant projects, including the first robotics team. This fall, 3M Cottage Grove had a new surprise for our teachers and students. They flash funded over $80,000 for 89 teacher projects in 21 of our schools using the online funding program called DonorsChoose.org. On October 5th, the funding secret was revealed at an all-school assembly at Great Cloud Elementary with hundreds of happy students, teachers, and staff. Now we're going to show a brief video that the Communications Department put together that captures this event.
Amazing partner for us here in the South Washington County School District. They help us in so many different ways, and their generosity allows us then to ignite a passion for lifelong learning.
My name's Kristine. I'm a kindergarten teacher at Great Cloud Elementary, and we just want to say a huge thank you to 3M for doing this. Having books in the classroom is huge. My kids are so excited, and they're going to love to be able to sit there and listen to a book while it's read to them. So thank you.
Thank you to 3M for making this flash funding possible and for your continued support of our schools to enrich teaching and learning. At this time, I'd like to introduce Dan Carlson from 3M, who will share more about the flash funding highlight.
Yeah. Thank you. That was a nice video. First time I saw that. So it was a wonderful event. I'd say on behalf of 3M and on behalf of 3M Cottage Grove, it's really nice to be part of this community. We're really proud to be part of this community, and we get to do these wonderful things as we give back. Because 3M, we have a proud tradition of like volunteerism. Our employees like to do that. Giving products, probably some of you around here have gotten a 3M gift bag, and as well as financial support. So we like to do all three of those, and especially, we like to give back to education, especially in the STEM area. So this was a very, very fun and rewarding event for us. We kind of surprised the teachers, Had like 700 screaming kids, which was really exciting. And then to end the month, we actually had a career day. So we had a lot of high schoolers come down to our facility. Had about 50 of our staff that hosted them, gave them a tour of the facility, told them, hey, these are some opportunities you could have if you want to stay in the community and you want to come work at 3M. These are kind of jobs that you could have. So just want to leave you with that. We're really proud to be part of Cottage Grove, and it's nice to be able to give back to our community. Thank you.
4.2, Fall Activities Update. And Phil Kuemmel, our Park High School Activity Director, will start us off.
Good evening, Chair Burnett, school board members, Dr. Jacobus, and student reps. Again, as always, we kind of blink of an eye and the fall season is over and we're here giving our end of the season updates. We appreciate the time just to share some of the accomplishments that we have going on at all three of our schools. A lot of great things happening. One of the things that we're trying to do at all three of our schools is always increase participation, getting kids involved. We see all the benefits that come from that. We've kind of have our set sports that we've been doing forever, and, one of the things I enjoy seeing is the new clubs that we have developing every single year, try to get kids more involved in the school. So some of our newer clubs at Park this year, the Asian Food Adventures, I just need to mention that one. I mean, that's a group of kids that just want to go out and eat Asian food. And they found, it's great. They found an advisor who, and I think a couple Saturdays ago, they went and they picked a place and they all met there, and they're trying different restaurants. So that sounds like a great club. You get to go out and eat out. So, but things like that just bring kids together instead of them doing them things on their own. They're doing it together, meeting new friends, that kind of a thing. A bass fishing club, breakfast club. I don't know if we'll hear about that one later, maybe from Lindsay, but that's been another one of our new ones. Esports, which is another one that's kind of up and coming throughout the state of Minnesota, which is very interesting. Even the high school league's talking about some aspects of the esports world. And a painting club and a tournament club, which is, again, more video games. But a lot of great things happening, kids involved in the school, which we love to see. I like to stress a lot of the why we play, the inside-out coaching type of things that we're doing in our building. Obviously, one of the reasons we come here is talk about results and wins and losses and achievements and that kind of thing. But at all three schools, it goes so much more beyond the scoreboard and the other great things that we're doing in our schools. So one of the things, again, I say it every time I'm here, but I like to share it, is we came together as an activities department to come up with what our purpose is. Why are we doing what we're doing? So our mission of the Park High School Activities Department is to create learning opportunities for students to develop character, become well-rounded citizens, and achieve excellence in their activities, school, and community. So that's something that we try to focus on every single day. Another thing that the high school league talks a lot about is common language. The idea that, we're kind of all working towards the same goal, speaking the same language. One of the other things they really encourage us to do is to come up with a collective definition of success, which means when we're looking at the end of a season or at the end of a school year even, and we're looking at each of our programs, how are we actually going to define success? And again, as we know, we're not going to define it, well, we were the state champions, so we were successful, or we won a conference, but there's so many more things. So again, throughout the summer and the beginning of this fall, our coaches and advisors came together and kind of took a while, obviously, but came up with a collective definition of success that we're going to use at Park High School. So when we look at our programs, we're going to come back to this, and it doesn't happen all the time, but every once in a while when parents have concerns about, hey, what's going on with the program, we're going to come back to this definition and say, as long as we're doing this, we feel like we're successful. So the definition that our group of coaches and advisors came up with was our definition of success. We believe success is based on achievement of our stated purpose, which I mentioned. Success is having fun, seeing growth in students, and knowing that you made your best effort to reach individual and team goals. Success is being a part of something bigger than yourself and is best determined years after students graduate. And that's one of the things we talk a lot about, is if we want to develop better people, that may not happen by the time they leave high school. That may be 5-10 years down the road. What kind of leader are they in the community? What kind of a parent are they? Those kinds of things. So a lot of things that we've talked about within our school with the Inside Out coaching focuses on that, and we're really going to use that definition to help us guide everything that we're doing. A couple quick accomplishments. I won't go through all of them. Kind of a broken record. I say this every time we're here, but it's a great broken record to go through. Our Thunderbolts adapted soccer team is just incredible. Again, never taking for granted what they do. And again, not just because they do a lot of winning, because this team wins a lot. They'll be participating in the state tournament probably for I don't know how many years in a row. It'll be this coming weekend. They actually play tomorrow at Stillwater at 6:30. And so good luck to the Thunderbolts. But again, the best thing about that program is whether those kids are winning or whether they're winning by 10 or losing by 10, they have the absolute biggest smiles on their face, and that's a phenomenal program. So definitely good luck to the Thunderbolts this coming weekend. A couple other quick accomplishments I want to go through. We had one student that achieved all-state status this fall season, Femi Adewola in boys soccer. But the other thing that always amazes me, and it happens in all three of our schools, these kids that are participating in activities and also doing great things in the classroom. So we had a few students that received academic all-state honors, which means they're doing great things on the field, but obviously successful in the classroom. Taryn Leonard in volleyball, Ramiro Perez and Peyton Tessman in boys soccer, Yordarinas DeGeff in girls tennis, Ingrid Granlund, Emily Hoagie, and Ella Bosham in girls soccer. So great things there. And then from a team-wise also, what the State Coach Association do is they give awards to teams. If you have a 3.75 team GPA or higher, you get a gold award. If you have a 3.5 to 3.75, you get a silver award. So we had one team achieve the gold status. Our girls cross country had a team GPA above 3.75, and then boys cross country, girls swim and dive, and girls soccer each got the silver status, which means that 3.5 to 3.75. So again, great things in the classroom. I know you'll hear this from the other two ADs as well too. Wednesday was the first National Letter of Intent signing day for NCAA students, and we had 7 student athletes sign letters of intent, which means they'll be continuing their athletic career in college, which is a great accomplishment. And finally, Saturday, coming up here this weekend, we will have our 14th class inducted into our Park High School Hall of Fame, which is always a great event. So a lot of good things going on. And again, all these accomplishments that we're doing, the kids couldn't achieve without a lot of support. They get a lot of support from our building administration. They get a lot of support from our district administration with our superintendent and assistant soups, and of course support from the school board. So we appreciate that. Thank you for all that you do, and I will pass it over to Mr. Wooten.
All right. Thank you guys for inviting us back out. As Phil mentioned, it's really hard to believe that we're already at the end of fall season and starting to transition into our winter activities. And, yet again, just the students at Woodbury High School just continue to amaze me with their talents, their ability, and their versatility, and just, everything that they provide to not only the school but the school community as well. Student engagement is something that we really try to focus on, and we try to create opportunities for students. And this past fall we had nearly 600 students participate in fall athletics. That number is up around 30 students from last year, so we're continuing to go on a nice trend. There were also nearly 200 additional students who participated in the marching band, fall musical, and robotics. So even beyond athletics, we continue to just start that student engagement on the fine arts side as well. We're gonna first talk about the fall musical, but before that, just Woodbury High School did do a lot of work this summer as an activities department with the coaches and sponsors, and we developed a mission as well for our students at Woodbury High School. And I just think our coaches, I have to give them a lot of credit, because our coaches are so selfless, and the time and sacrifice that they put in to everything they do, all the activities that we have. And so Woodbury High School, we're really committed to using extracurricular activities to provide a positive experience for all students, embracing them, and also giving them that experience that's not only impactful but nurturing, something that they can take from and grow from and use beyond the high school years. Fall musical was a super success. Again, very talented crew cast. I got to send some special kudos out to our crew, our advisors and director, Marcy Berglund, Daryl Timmer, Ursula Bowden, Norm Teeterman, Katie Roach, Matt Shervey. They did an awesome job with the kids. We had about 25 kids participate in this, and each night was a packed house, and just an amazing performance by those kids. They did a rendition of "Once Upon a Mattress," which is a kind of a spinoff of Princess and the Pea, and I took my daughter to it, and she enjoyed every minute, and that's hard to do. Girls tennis had an outstanding season. Girls tennis finished runner-up in the sections this year. Amazing group of kids that really just enjoy going out there and playing the sport, and it's a real joy to watch them play and participate. Our volleyball team hosted the first round of sections this year and picked up their first postseason win since 2014. So kudos to that coaching staff and that group of girls as they continue to improve and make that program a better program. Boys and girls soccer programs both had successful winning seasons on both sides. Each hosted a section game, and both teams advanced to the semifinals in the section. So a lot of success there. Shwete Rajay, who was our goalkeeper for the girls soccer team, was a Minnesota Miss Soccer finalist, and that's a pretty big deal. She's an amazing student athlete. Yesterday, like 7 of our student athletes, she signed a letter of intent to the University of Denver, so she's going to go on to the next level and continue to do some special things. Phil talked about it already, but our Thunderbolts, our adaptive soccer team, are just an amazing group of kids. They're spending a lot of time in those state tournaments, and they're making us ADs work overtime, and that's good. So, kudos to them as well. Cross-country team sent 3 state participants this fall. Aiden Brown, Tiffany Holliday, and Anna Muehlner all participated in a state meet at St. Olaf College earlier this month. It was a unique experience for me, first state meet that I've attended. It was raining outside, and it was very cold, and the kids fought through that adversity, and it showed some good grit and did well. We also have one diver, Gabrielle Marder, who's actually a 7th grader, attends Lake Middle School, and she's one of the top 12 divers in the state right now. So that is an amazing accomplishment in itself. And then our football team won the conference championship this year, as well as the Section 6A championship, and they took they made their first trip to the state tournament since 2004. So a lot of excitement going on at Woodbury High School from the fine arts perspective, as well as the athletic side. In our club, we added an additional 10 clubs this year to continue to try to enhance that experience for our students and get more students engaged. So that is it from Woodbury High School. I'm going to pass it on to Sara. Excuse me.
Good evening. It has been a very exciting opportunity to be the new activities director at Eastridge High School. It's been a huge learning curve, and the things that I've enjoyed most so far is really getting to engage with students in a different aspect instead of the classroom, but above and beyond and outside in the classroom. One of the things that I made a goal for this fall was to make sure to connect with parents, players, coaches, as they did their parent meetings this fall. So to be able to listen to the coaches talk about their philosophy and their connection to the expectations they have for their students, whether it was the band going to their meeting or a robotics meeting, and the expectations in every single meeting that I attended. One of the highlights was the expectation to give back to your community. So it has been a joy to see our students constantly in the community giving back to, whether they're helping in an organization, they're helping in with their youth programs, but that the expectation to give back has been fun to see as well. As far as our participation within our activities, they continue to stay very consistent with high participation in all of our Minnesota State High School League activities, and then it is our non-competitive activities that seem to be growing and growing and growing. As far as debate, we've had several of our students at this time qualifying for the national competition that they are currently in, and was today. Along with our beautiful facilities, we get to host lots of outstanding events at our school. So earlier in the year, we had a massive robotics competition that was just phenomenal, and to see these young minds create such amazing high technological devices, it's so rewarding. So those activities continue to grow, as well as our fine arts program. We have currently going on right now, our fall musical is Les Mis. We have over 100 students participating as part of either the pit crew, the set design, the actors and actresses, and it is 100% run by our student body. They do the lights, the soundboards, they're supporting the directing. And then again, it's all live music, and at times when you're sitting watching it, you think it's a recording, but it is the students actually down in the pit playing the music. It has been just an eye-opening experience for me, where I lived in the elementary world for so long, to see young adults perform at such a high level. It's it's amazing. It's just breathtaking. If you haven't had a chance, we have this weekend we have 3 more performances. Friday, Saturday at 7, and then Sunday is a 2 o'clock matinee. If you haven't had that opportunity to see it, I would encourage you to do that. We have had a couple firsts this year as far as sports accomplishments. This was the first year that our girls soccer team was conference champs since the school's been open. They've made it to the state tournament, but this is the first time that they've been state champions or conference champions. And then also our boys cross country team made it as a team to state for the first time. Multiple students making all conference honors, along with some special honors. Our football quarterback, Zach Zabrowski, was named the MVP offense player for the SEC conference, so the top player in the offense for our conference. And then Linnea Yakavella, one of our girls soccer players, was a finalist for the Pioneer Press Player of the Year with that. And then we had Steph Barber, one of our volleyball players, was second team All-Metro. It was a year of seconds. We placed second in girls soccer, boys soccer, football, with those competitive areas, and volleyball. So we are all second place section runner-up teams for that. And then we did have 8 students sign their letter of intent yesterday, and the way we structured it is the students had an opportunity to speak, and just the articulation or the way they articulated their thanks to their families, and again that support was wonderful to see. The last part is again talking about our fine arts. We have students in the all-conference area for band and orchestra, dozens of students that will get an opportunity to perform February 4th at White Bear Lake for the SEC Music Festival, along with our all-conference choir students that will get an opportunity to perform later in the year to showcase their talents with that. We've had a great fall, and we're continuing to work on building our Why We Play philosophy with all of our student athletes and families, and the commitment that they bring to our school, along with growing all of our programs. Today we had a fun meeting about starting boys volleyball at Eastridge High School, which is a trend that is coming quickly at the Minnesota State High School League. So we are looking at having a club team this spring, so I'll hopefully get to report on that for spring. So thank you for your time, and thank you.
Any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, we appreciate the time. Thanks.
5.0 is public comment. At this time, individuals may speak to the school board on any item that is not on tonight's agenda. The board will not respond to or discuss your comments. Character abuse or specific complaints identifying staff, students, or task force members will not be permitted. The superintendent may be asked to prepare a response to your concerns, and our policy allows for 3 minutes per person. So we do have one person who had signed up this evening, Amy Anderson.
Good evening. I want to thank the board and the administration who's here for your service and everything. Your jobs are not easy, and it always faces new challenges, so I appreciate all that you do. This evening, as I was looking through the agenda and I saw some of the slides, I noticed that budget is on the agenda again in the review of it, and noticed that we were seeing some increases in there, and it made me wonder, what are we doing to make sure that we're staying fiscally responsible this year within the district? Calling specific attention to some of those increases that we're going to see in the funds, and how are we really best utilizing that for the 18,000 students that are in this district? How are those dollars going to be allocated for those particular students the most wisely and the most efficiently? And really bringing value back to those students. And that's really what I'm going to challenge you all with as we look at when we see more increase in spending, asking for more money, whether it be from the state or wherever it comes from through lease levies or wherever it is. How are we getting that return, or what is that return on that investment to those students? Specifically, if we look at 834, I know that they're spending 3 to 4 times more on curriculum than they are within this district. Why is that? Per student, they're spending 3 to 4 more dollars on their students than in this district. What can we do with those dollars that we might be seeing new to this district that we could spend wisely on our 18,000 students? In addition, what kind of return on investment have we got going for those investments we've already made? We put up walls in Valley Crossing. How has that improved the education, the well-being, or anything else for those 600 students that now have those walls? What about the walls that we put up at Woodbury Middle School, moving Spanish immersion over into that school? How is that benefiting the education and the well-being of those students that are there? We're just talking about adding on to Altman. How is that going to make the students better at that school or wherever it might be throughout the district? Could those dollars go better somewhere else? Since there's a gap in, there's a space gap still at Cottage Grove Middle now that Spanish immersion has gone out. These are the things I want you guys to be thinking about as we look at where we can put some of the increases in dollars that are going on. One particular area that's near and dear to my heart is the responsive classroom at Valley Crossing. I'd like to see that multi-age responsive classroom continue to be strong. There's over 600 students plus faculty that get served from that responsive classroom. And so I would ask for your consideration as we look at some of these dollar increases that are coming from the percent increases from the state and elsewhere, that those be part of on your radar, especially as Gateway has entered into that school. There's more and more students and throughout the entire district that would be served through that process. Again, I ask for your consideration to look at all the students involved as you look at your spending across the board to make sure that we're maximizing the value on every dollar that's spent. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wanted to speak with the board this evening? All right. Seeing none, we will move on to 6.0, our consent items. All consent items are considered routine and non-controversial by the school board and will be approved by a single motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items, but prior to the meeting, board members did have the opportunity to review them and could have moved one to an action item. That has not happened this evening, so I will entertain a motion to approve our consent agenda.
I'll second him.
Moved by Katie and second by Ron. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And if I could just interject real quick,
yes.
Board Chair Burnett, one of the items that we just approved this evening within our consent agenda item is 6.6. That's the approval of our gifts. And this last month, we had over $34,700 donated to the district, which gives us a school year total at this point of $243,861. So incredible generosity that is given to us from our community, and we certainly thank them for those dollars. We also thank for all those volunteers that spend so many countless hours helping our kids within our schools too. So at the end of our board meeting tonight, we run quote unquote the credits of all those folks, and I always ask if you do see them in the community, please stop and thank them from us at the school board too. So thank you.
Thanks. 7.0 are workshop items. Those will be on our agenda for January 3rd of 2019. 8.0 are information items, and 8.1 is our meeting student needs in South Washington County, and our Director of Community Ed, Bob Lawrence, will introduce.
Good evening. Thank you, Board Chair Burnett, members of the board, Dr. Jacobus, student representatives. I think it's very fitting that we're presenting right after Board Member Kath cited or acknowledged the nearly $250,000 that's been donated to our students in our schools throughout the year. We're going to talk tonight about different initiatives and efforts that we have going on within District 833 to meet specific needs of students. If you'll recall, back in March, you had a presentation with some of our presenters tonight talking about a formal partnership that we entered with Second Harvest Heartland and the No Kid Hungry initiative. So tonight we're going to hear a little bit more about that. We're going to hear about an effort that's been ongoing for a number of years. I think this is our 5th year doing our weekend backpack program, and then also some of the work that So Washco Cares has been doing to meet student needs. And so one of the exciting things, all of these happening today, if I'll back up. If you've opened your email today, you may know it's Give to the Max Day. And I think that's a really great opportunity to see all of the different ways that we as community members can give back to other organizations. One of the things that we're really working to do is not create new initiatives, but leverage resources and work with other community partners and agencies to best meet the needs of our students. So that's what I hope you'll hear tonight. In addition to our speakers, I'll just acknowledge we do have some others. Michelle Heary, who you heard from back in March, is here with, she's with Second Harvest Heartland. I also see Bob Klatt. He apparently has some free time, so he's been working with our adaptive planning committee, which you'll hear about later on as well. Now that he's retired as the Park and Rec Director with Woodbury. And then I saw Greg Metzger snuck in the back, and he's with Christian Cupboard Food Shelf. And so we're all partners on this initiative. So you'll hear from Cheryl Jogger with Sowashko Cares about some of the efforts that have been underway. You'll hear from Laura Vogel, who works with our weekend backpack program. And then also from Dr. Albert Linderman, who we'll talk a little bit more about some of the research he did over about a 6-month period of time to really understand what the student needs are within District 833, and he'll share some of the initiatives and future plans on how we're going to address those. So I'm going to start by introducing Cheryl Jogger, and she'll talk about some of the many things happening right now. So.
Thank you, Bob. Good evening. So tonight's presentation comes the day after our Sowashko Cares Winter Pack event. We had it at Oltman this year, and this is the event where we invite the community to come out and help pack meals for our kids to take home over the winter break. This is the 3rd year we've hosted it, and the response from the community is always just amazing. It's absolutely overwhelming to witness the generosity of people who take time out of their schedules to come out and help our students to make sure they have what they need. And really at the heart of the No Kid Hungry work, that's what it's really about. It's about bringing community together and really addressing student needs as individuals. This, I think it really speaks to the objectives of our district strategic plan in meeting student needs, making sure they have what they need so they can succeed in school and really focus on learning. So let's see. Within South Washington County, we have 1 in 5 students who are qualified to receive free and reduced meals. That's about 3,500 students. This is a map on the slide here that shows the percentage of students eligible for free and reduced. You can see that there are pockets of higher need. We have 2 schools who have over 50% free and reduced rates, but the need exists in every single one of our 24 buildings. We have students receiving free and reduced meals in all of our schools. And so, as Bob mentioned, late last year we partnered with Second Harvest on the No Kid Hungry initiative. This is a national campaign. We're very proud to be the first school district in Minnesota to launch this initiative, and we will serve as the model to learn best practices on how to eliminate child hunger and serve as the model for school districts in Minnesota and across the country. So really the goal of No Kid Hungry is simple. We want to make sure that every child has access to 3 meals a day, every day. That goal is simple, but the answer and solutions are not straightforward. It's going to take a combination approach, and there are some achievable outcomes that we are focusing on. We want to maximize federal nutrition programs throughout the district. This includes our free and reduced meal program, summer meals, and also SNAP, formerly known as food stamps. We want to coordinate and connect existing programs. There are great organizations out there. There's a lot of great programs, but no one resource seems to be enough to fill the need. So we really want to get everybody working together, and we really feel that when we bring everyone together, we can achieve success, and we can reduce child hunger by a significant amount within the next 3 to 5 years. So clearly we have a community that cares about this issue. I see it every day through my work with Sowashko Cares. We saw it last night at the Winter Pack event. We have support from our school district, administration, staff, schools, principals, the social workers. We have wonderful nonprofits in the community, including our food shelves, Friends in Need, and Christian Cupboard, who are great partners in this work. And we have an active community of volunteers who are engaged in businesses, and our faith communities play a big role in this work as well. And so this is Laura's slide, but a lot of the work that we have done focuses on providing meals in out of school time. And so this work really began with the Weekend Pack program. And Laura Vogel is here to talk about that. She's a district employee, but she very generously coordinates this program on her own time. And so she's going to give you some of the details of the Weekend Pack.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me talk with you tonight. The Weekend Pack program began in February of 2014 with a video that a couple of us in the district saw of a mom who had a child show up on her doorstep in the middle of the night, in the middle of a snowstorm, in only her pajamas because there was no food in this child's home. And the child rode the bus with this mom's children, and so she knew that she'd be fed if she came to the home. The mom began a conversation with people in the district and realized that it was a larger problem than she had ever realized, and so she began a Weekend Pack program in a northern Minneapolis suburb. And at that point in time, the people that had seen the video came together, and we began to wonder about our children and our families and our neighbors and our community. And so we began conversations with some very committed, very knowledgeable people, and with a lot of support from Julie Nielsen, which was key in moving forward with that. And so in September of 2014, through the support of Good in the Hood, we began a pilot Weekend Pack program, which was really amazing to think that we had a wondering in February, and by the first week in September, we were providing meals for our kids. Thrive and Financial reached out and said that they would create packs for us and give us the packs that we needed for that entire first pilot program year, which we didn't have to worry about where the food was coming from. All we had to think about was the logistics. How do we begin with our schools? We started with six sites, and what did it look like to deliver and to store, and all of the things that went along with a pilot program. It was very successful. We were super excited about how it all went. King of Kings also provides weekend packs for us every year in December that get us through the spring months, and so we have that stable provision of food for our kids each year, which is a real blessing. These are our neighbors. These are our families, these are our children, and these are our friends. There was an organization, a local organization, that was doing a weekend packing event with their children's group. And one of the children walked in, saw what they were doing, and got so excited and said, I get weekend packs. I get weekend packs in my backpack on the weekend. Maybe I'll get this pack that I'm packing in my backpack this weekend. And so these are our children. And this child saw the caring that was going on through the people that this child knew, and that he would receive food on the weekend. Our kids have a job to be students. They have a job to learn. They have a job to not have to worry about where their next meal comes from, but to just be learners right now. And so to be able to provide that for our kids is so important. Starting in 2015, the Weekend Pack moved to our Pathways program, which is a program for our 18 to 21-year-old students. The kids, when necessary, actually create the packs. They count out the number of packs needed at each school. They pack the packs, get them ready to be picked up by our driver, Al Domeyer, who does an amazing job of getting our packs safely to all of the school sites that we provide them to. And so it's not only a job training experience for those kids, it's also a volunteer opportunity. And so I wanted to read to you an email that I got recently from Kathy Paulson, who's the work coordinator at Pathways. She said, we appreciate this opportunity for our students to help out with this. Some students do not get an opportunity to volunteer, so this is a perfect fit for us. We also treat this like a work site. I have assigned a warehouse manager, and now I have an assistant manager. They keep the area neat, leave notes for the workers who pack, and do quality control. They feel pretty important, and I've seen a decrease in behaviors with my warehouse manager. So not only are we providing food for kids that need food on the weekend, we also have an opportunity to do a job training with some of our students at our Pathways program. We have very many community organizations supporting our weekend pack currently, but our need continues to grow. We're currently in 10 sites. We do know, as Cheryl said, that we could be in every one of our 24 sites. So how can we provide a support for our weekend pack program and for our children? Each weekend pack provides 2 breakfast items. In this case, this was an actual pack. It's put into a grocery bag and then discreetly put into the child's backpack, or they pick it up in the nurse's office as they walk out the door. This has cereal and oatmeal. It has 2 lunch items. It has 2 dinner items. In this case, it's chicken salad and beef ravioli. It has 2 snack items, a granola bar and some fruit and go, and then it has 2 drink items. And so that's what we provide the children each weekend for their consumption, so that they have something to eat. Each weekend pack costs approximately $3.50 per child per week. So something that we can consider doing is providing financial support on the Good in the Hood website under Programs and Feeding the Future, and it is Give to the Max Day. So if you want to be a part of a larger giving community, you can certainly do it today, or it can be done at any point in time. You can make a one-time donation. You can adopt a child. $140 provides food for a child for a full school year, or you can adopt an entire school for a year. The Grove Church, that has a site in Woodbury and in Cottage Grove, has adopted Armstrong Elementary, and they've also adopted Royal Oak. So they do everything from ordering the food through Second Harvest through Good in the Hood. They then pack the food, they then deliver the food to those 2 sites. They don't know who the children are who are receiving these packs. They just know that there's a need, and they've stepped up and they're providing for those children at those 2 schools. You can also have your organization collect food or do an actual weekend packing event, which is a whole lot of fun. Good in the Hood uses donations of new and gently used shoes and boots to finance their Feeding the Future program. So you can consider having a shoe drive through your organization or your neighborhood. You can also do it in your own home. I have to say, when we were raising up 3 boys, it seemed like every couple of months their shoes didn't fit anymore. So just going through our own closets and finding those gently used shoes that the kids didn't use very often because their feet grow so quickly, that you can donate those shoes. The other thing is, as you're out getting your children their new shoes and boots, if you pick up an extra pair, that can then be donated to Good in the Hood so that they can resell them for their Feeding the Future program. I had to get a pair of boots for my grandson and figured there's other grandchildren out there who could benefit from boots as well. The other thing you can do is sponsor the shoe bus, which Good in the Hood has a bus. Actually, they have 2 buses that they've retrofitted to become actual shoe stores. And so those shoe buses go into neighborhoods that are lower socioeconomic, and the families can go in and purchase the new or gently used boots at a greatly reduced cost, but they're able to pick out what they need for their family and choose the things that are best for their family. So there's lots of opportunities to provide support for weekend packs. If you would like to donate the gently used shoes or boots, they can be dropped off either here at the District Service Center. We'll have a bin out in the lobby, or Schuler Shoes takes those donations, and they're in the same complex as Walmart on Hudson Drive in Woodbury, and they get them then to Good in the Hood. So as support grows, we'll be able to grow our weekend pack program with really the desire to be in every one of our schools, because we know that the need is there. If you have any questions or would like to participate in any of these ways, please feel free to contact me. I do work at the District Service Center, so if you call the front office, they'll be able to connect you to me, and I can walk you through what that would look like. Thank you.
Thank
you. So just very quickly, the Sawashko Cares Winter Pack event is basically an extension of our current weekend pack programs. We're very interested in making sure that kids have something to eat when school's not in session. And so that event occurred yesterday. In addition to food resources, Sawashko Cares also addresses other items like winter clothing. At this particular time, we have received a very large number of requests for winter clothing items. At the back of the room, I brought a little giving tree that has some of the items that are still remaining. You can see the full list on our Sawashko Cares Facebook page. But we started with about 1,200 items that we needed, and we've really made our way through and filled about 3/4 of those requests already. We have 300 requests for coats. We're so close to getting a coat for every student. We only have about 30 more that we need, so if you are able to, please grab one of the items on your way out, or just contact me and I can give you the list of specific items that we need. So the weekend pack and the winter pack programs are have been in existence for a number of years, but this past summer, Community Ed launched the Summer Schoolie program. This is the first program that we started after working with No Kid Hungry. And so Summer Schoolie was our Schoolie bus. I hope you've all seen Schoolie out in the DPC parking lot. We visited 7 locations throughout the district, providing free fun and food to families, adding 2 new reimbursable meal sites. The bus was out every day, 4 days a week, pretty much through the whole summer, about 10 weeks. We had over 30 community partners providing the free meals and snacks, and we were able to serve an additional 1,000 meals to families this summer. And so the No Kid Hungry, as I mentioned, this work is really about bringing the community together. We want to bring everybody to the table for this work, and that includes the end users. So these are the families that we really want to engage to be part of the process. Families who are currently experiencing food insecurity, who are trying to navigate the system, understanding what their experiences are will really help us define solutions to help families access food in a more easier way. And then I think what I've learned just in the last year working on this initiative is that addressing hunger in the suburbs is, it's not easy. I think there's a lot of preconceived notions about what hunger and poverty look like. I think even there's some lack of awareness that these kinds of issues exist in our community, and those assumptions can cause an additional sense of stigma for families who are seeking food resources, and that's a really major focus of this work, is to try to address the issue of stigma. I think we talk about it a lot, that if we could figure out how to encourage families to not be ashamed about needing help and asking for help, we really could go a long way in this work. And so with that, Albert is going to talk to you a little bit about the research that he conducted with families in our community who are experiencing hunger. These are the lived experiences of our families and our students right here in our community. It's very powerful, and I think it's a really important piece for us to understand in this work. So with that, I'll turn it over.
Thank you. Good evening. Had the privilege of designing, guiding, overseeing, leading a number of approaches to understanding child hunger in 833. As has been mentioned, this work with 833 is a pilot effort. The need in suburbs is dramatic across the country. There's quite a bit more child hunger in suburbs than there are in cities, in the sense that in cities the infrastructure is set up, the programs are set up, the resources are available, and in suburbs they are much less so. So what is it like we think in one sense this is perhaps the most comprehensive research that's been done in the suburbs yet on this issue. Happy to share this with you. There were 5 approaches to our research. We began with 4 community meetings. We had 68 attendees. during those 4 community meetings. One of them was a school district centric group, and the other 3 were citizens. We met in 3 different parts of the district, and we believe we drew fairly broadly from across the district. We did 53 in-depth interviews. They averaged about an hour apiece. We then engaged another organization to do some youth research, organization called Youth Prize, which has a particular methodology that's a nationally developed methodology called Youth Participatory Action Research. So Youth Prize came in and they took 4 Park High young people and trained them to do some research, and these 4 young people went and interviewed and interacted with 32 people. And so that's, that whole approach is also included in the findings that I'm going to share with you in just a second. We had a small group that worked on trying to visualize what families experiencing hunger are faced with in our community. And so there was a group of about 7 of us, including Greg Metzger, Cheryl Jogger, Michelle Heary, and then 3 others who worked on designing a model. I'll show you the model here in a minute. And then I conducted a number of interviews with community leaders, both inside and outside the district, who understand the issues. So a little bit about those in-depth interviews, the 53. And of those 53 one-hour interviews, 48 of them were adults, and we did have 5 teenagers part of that approach as well. The adults averaged 2.7 children per family. 4.2 were the average number of distinct actions that they had taken, meaning they had pursued one direction or another. Yeah, I think I'm supposed to stay here, aren't I? Sorry. I'm not used to being stuck, but my apologies for anybody who didn't catch that. So what that means that the average number of distinct action steps taken are family deciding, all right, well, I need to pursue food shelf, or that would be a step. I need to pursue getting some perhaps government programs. I need to pursue free and reduced. I need to pursue XYZ. So the average number of the 48 adults was what you see, 4.2. 47.6% were persons of color, 52.4% were Caucasian. 80% female, part of this is the interview group that we had, 80% female. 58% were single or divorced. We did interview 3 Spanish speakers and 1 American Sign Language speaker. I mentioned that one of the things we did was system modeling. So the 7 of us, this was a working group of community members. We had 5 modeling meetings of 3 hours each, and it was all facilitated using the system dynamics modeling approach from MIT and a particular software called VinSim. So that was what we worked with. The community sector leader interviews. I had the privilege to interview a principal in the district, a couple of social workers, the homeless liaison, Crystal Gentry, our FNS director, Wendy Tracy, food shelf executive directors, of course, Greg Metzger, and then Michelle Raggliff at Friends in Need. I also interviewed some key sector leaders outside of 833, a couple of FNS directors, food justice leaders, as well as nonprofit food sector leaders. So here are the findings. So let's share that with you. Number one item that we discovered is that many people are experiencing what we have termed an episodic heightened need. These are people who have an unanticipated temporary episode of need for food resources. They are not generationally poor. So often the stereotype is, well, gosh, if you need food resources, then you clearly, you just don't know how to take care of yourself. And that is the exact opposite of the way it is in the suburbs. The interviewees have gone through things such as divorce, family structure change of various types, disability to self, to child, or to a loved one that they have to take care of, health, home, or other major expense, and job change and loss. The opportunity to sit across and to get deep with individuals is a most moving experience. And it is the message that was told over and over again by the people interviewing it, filled with shame to have to admit to being in need, and struggling with the stigma of needing food resources, and yet able to share that there have been some unanticipated experiences in life that could not have been planned for that put me or my family into this situation. And certainly there were cases where there were people who were generationally poor, but it is a very low percent of people who grew up depending on outside assistance, and they're used to it, and that's what they do. Very, very low in this community. So 75% of the interviewees have episodic need. For many, their episode of need lasts 2 to 3 years or less, and for some it leads to a chain of episodes, so it's a spiral cycle down where it's very difficult to climb out. Here are some of the quotes from some people. We have hundreds of these quotes, but here are just a few to pick out. I was making $90,000 a year. Even at that career level, you're still at a paycheck to paycheck kind of thing. I had a house to pay for. And of course, having lost the job because of a health crisis, and now having to go seek for need at a food shelf and for government assistance. I have a bachelor's degree. I want to tell people I have children, I have a car, I'm married. People don't think Woodbury has hungry people, but there are. There are people who are poor and low income who need food resources that kind of get pushed on the back burner. And by the way, our interviewees came from both northern side of the district and then the southern side of the district, pretty evenly split. Ever since my wife lost her job, it's been difficult. It was the first time in my life that I ever had a food crisis. I wish I had been able to plan for the crisis, but I couldn't. It just happened. My job wages went down. That was pretty much the bulk of the problem. You have the same bills, but your pay is less. So here's the employment status of those that were interviewed, the 48 adults. 70% currently employed, 25% unemployed, and of several of those unemployed are disabled, cannot work, and they got disabled on the job for some reason or another. Here's a list of the resources used by the interview participants, and they have, some of those have a star by them, and those star items are items that are related to resources that the school district is providing that families are using. So you see the number one here was 48 of the people. Now that does include teens. We did interview 5 people who do not go to the food shelf. And a couple of them told us they won't be seen at a food shelf. And we talked to them about, you know, it's, in fact, not only is it not that bad, the stories we're getting from people who've gone is it's actually outstanding how it's set up and how people are treated. But we did have 5 who had, to that point, refused to go to the food shelf. 48, which did include 5 teenagers, were using the food shelf, either Christian Cupboard or Friends in Need. You see the second most commonly used food resource is the free and reduced meals, and I don't know how clear that is with, you can read those with the gray, but the second one where 40 people, which is right out of the schools, is the free and reduced meal program. Following that is SNAP, so 36 of the 53 were connected to SNAP, which is a federal government program. Non-food resources, generally these would be people who we interviewed that were saying they were getting other types of assistance. So they had gotten electricity assistance or clothing assistance or some other type of assistance. The WIC program, so then you see free summer meals. 15 of our interviewees had been receiving and participated in going to free summer meal sites that are part of the school district, hosted by schools. You can see a variety. It's fairly interesting that The resources used by our interview participants very low in the faith community. I think that surprised us all. We expected that that would be a more common use, and it was not the case. So what are the barriers to food resource access? The number one barrier in this district is stigma. It was mentioned by 42 people. Our teenagers, the 5 of this group, didn't mention stigma because they didn't have word for it. It's interesting, the youth researchers who went and talked to those 28 or 7, whatever it was, teenagers, peer-to-peer, they all talked about stigma, and it's huge for them. Just to say, though, that stigma is something I'll show you a little bit more about here in a second. Availability and hours of food resource access is challenging for a lot of people. People work during the day. They can't get to where they need to get food resources. That was mentioned by more than half of our respondents. And you see some other items that the only one I want to point out to you is the next one, which is that they earn too much, that they're bubble families. So there are a number of people going to the food shelf that can't qualify for any kind of program because they earn just a bit too much, and yet they can't make ends meet. And if you were to see what the government guidelines are for how you qualify, they're set guidelines, and it doesn't take into account things like cost of living, et cetera, that in varied communities. So it is very difficult for people who we had one interview with a guy who works full time. His wife works full time. They have 4 children now, and the last 2 were kind of a surprise, and they were twins. And they are right at the bubble level, and they're just struggling. They just can't. They just barely earn a little too much, but they can't qualify. So that's common of a lot of people. You think 1 in 5 kids are on the free and reduced, which means they come from families. And so it might not be quite 20% of the families in the district, but it's probably more than 15%. So some of those kids, are from the same family, but it's probably more than 15% of the families in our district that are struggling to make ends meet. So barrier stigma, here are some examples detailed by 80% of the interviewees. One woman said, because of the feelings of shame and the feelings that I've disappointed my daughter, I do not reach out to friends. That was her experience. Nobody really knew what she was experiencing. We did have another woman who's not shown here. Her story's not shown here. She's actually really well known in the community, and her son has had multiple brain surgeries, and she has not been able to keep her job because of the care she has to give, and she has to drive to the food shelf, and she said the biggest challenge to her was when Friends in Need moved to their newer building. She said, people can see my car when it's parked there, and it just tears me up. She doesn't want anybody to know, and yet she has to deal with it. Over and over, those are the kind of stories we get told. The desire to provide for a child's well-being, of course, overcomes the crippling effects of stigma. I mean, as one mom said, it's embarrassing to need food, but as a mom, you've got to do what you've got to do. And another mom said, for me, once I get to feeling defeated, I can't sit in that because it will break me. I can't be broken because I have 2 persons depending on me. Kids, from the youth research, kids have, part of their report from the group that did the peer-to-peer of teenagers, they said even though there's no real way to distinguish who's on free and reduced within the rules of the district, I mean, it's not an obvious thing, yet the kids always are able to figure it out, and they know who is in need and who's not. Students associate being a part of the free and reduced program with being lesser. That just came out over and over from every kid who experiences it. Students from Newport are called river rats, so there's an issue there for whatever. That's part of the learning they had, that Newport kids had that experience. Students of color, some were asked if they're on the free and reduced program. Well, you're black, you must be on free and reduced, right? And we had that reported to us on more than one occasion. So I'm going to move just because of time. I respect we've got some time. I know this is interesting. At the same time, I could talk for hours. This has been a really moving 6 months, so March through August of research. The modeling group created this model. I don't know that I can do a lot to explain it to you really quickly. What I do, the reason I want to show it is this is the model that came up, and it does point out what a local school can do, and it also points out what the community can do. So I want you to note just really quickly that at the top is child well-being. That's the whole goal here, is child well-being. Children need to be children and live as children. And households who have limited resources have to make a decision whether they're going to get help or not. And they have to deal with their own internal stigma. I heard it over and over again. People are carrying stigma about, I hate that I have to get help, but I have to. And then there's the external stigma that's in the community that, oh yeah, it's just those people that need help. The folks who experience need hear it and feel it, and they know it's all around them. And so what can local schools do, and what can the community do? So that's, you see local school commitment. There are 3 arrows. I'm not going to go through the details of the arrows and the pluses and minuses, but there are 3 arrows coming out of local school commitment. Schools can help in these 3 ways, and I will show you that in just a second. And the community can help in 3 ways as well. So what can the school do? They can help lessen social external stigma that is felt by children and parents. There are things schools can do. This is not the place to tell you what all those are. Schools are going to actually have to create their own means of doing that, figuring this out. But schools can make a direct influence on their kids and their parents to lessen this external stigma that is felt. They can increase the use of community food resources through better information sharing with school families, and they can support families needing help that encourage in ways that encourage families to decide to get help. So our goal here is not to go through details of what a school should or should not be doing. It's just saying these are the kind of ways that a local school can help the issue of child hunger. The community can do 3 things as well. They can help lessen the stigma that we just talked about, this external stigma. They can increase the availability of community food resources, and the community can work with local schools to help encourage and support their commitment to ending child hunger. So what are we doing? We have 3 streams at work in this No Kid Hungry initiative in the district. One is a school-led stream that is going to focus on kids on days when kids attend schools. It's going to do things like, what can we do to help kids during the school day, and educate staff in best practices. And examples are like increasing breakfast participation and increasing after-school snacks. There is a whole community-led stream of work, which it focuses on families with kids throughout the year. So this is more of a family focus. And it is all about increasing community food resources for families in need and helping to destigmatize hunger. And then there's this joint blend between the community and the schools. And these are for days when kids are not in school, such as, so it's really a focus on kids, but it's for the summer and the weekends and the holidays. Huge challenges for these families. And so there can be partnerships and events. There already have been, and there are more coming to help address the need of kids during the times they're not in school. Since the research results have become known as we got through the summer and started into the fall, now this is actually the first presentation of the research findings. So this has not been disseminated widely, but the group, the adaptive planning group that I'll tell you about in a second, has been made aware of these research findings. We believe these findings are going to be shared more broadly throughout the community in coming months. The school district has formed 3 task forces to improve students' access to food resources. So this is part of that school-led stream. So there's a task force being developed now for elementary schools, one for middle schools, and one for high schools, all with the goal of what can be best practices in the schools to help kids get food while they're part of the school day. And so those groups have not met yet. They're just being formed, and that's one stream. The second stream here, the adaptive planning group has been sorting through the many ideas and recommendations that have come from the community. So all of our research, we also asked for all kinds of ideas and recommendations and got a laundry list. And adaptive planning, which is a small group of about 15 community members, grassroots people from every sector of our community who care about this issue and are dedicated to do something about it. They are starting to create tactics to address the top priorities that they've identified that they can make some dent in. And that's just beginning as well, and we're going to see a lot more coming. Individual schools have increased their activity in addressing child hunger, and SNAP outreach is increasing in several schools. Those are some of the things that have been happening. And so with that, I'm sorry I talked fast and a lot, and I apologize, but I also know some of you are really interested in these research findings. And if you've got any questions, certainly be happy to share, answer, talk.
Thank you. Any questions?
Maybe not questions, just thank you for all the work and the volunteerism that's happened there. I know when you first presented to us, I know I was one that volunteered to help, and I haven't really been able to help just because of work schedules and stuff like that. So I just want to thank the group publicly for all the work they've done, and then folks that led that work too. So thank you all so much.
So one of Bob Klatt's new jobs, so you know he's retired, but he's not really, you know how that is. He will be helping to lead this adaptive planning group moving forward, and we're going to work together on that as the months unfold. So happy to announce that as well.
Awesome.
Great.
I really liked your presentation. I thought there was interesting findings, especially when it came to these are, you know, temporary situations that people are in.
Yep.
That's very interesting. Thank you.
It kind of surprised us as well.
I would say, too, thank you. The enthusiasm for the projects and so many different paths we've taken as a district, and then partnering with outside agencies is really impressive. But that shame factor is such a major problem, because it's such a difficult emotion to deal with and paralyzes people from really moving forward. And we see it with kids in a number of things when they go through discipline issues, depending on how they view that. So I think highlighting the shame and the stigma and trying to work through that. Cheryl has talked to me about that as well, how to face into that, because it's one thing to say there shouldn't be any shame with this, especially the episodic nature of a lot of the situations. But if you're not living it, you don't realize the power.
Yeah.
So this is a multi-year commitment that we've made in partnership. So we'll continue to send information to you as we continue to grow our efforts. And if Albert ever comes back to present, we will get him a lapel mic, because I know he wanted to be moving around the room with all of the excitement and information that he has. So it's exciting things happening, and we're meeting specific needs of our students. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone, for all of your efforts. 8.2, financial update from our Director of Finance, Dan Pyan.
Good evening, Chair Brunette, members of the school board, Dr. Jacobus, Hannah, and Lindsay. Tonight I'm here to give you our monthly financial update. It's reminding me of, I probably told you this once before, but about the accountants that were at a funeral, and one of their colleagues had passed away, and he lived a long life, and at the coffee afterwards, the three of them were sitting around talking, and one said, "What? I heard that he died penniless," and the next one said, "Well, that's really a shame. That's really sad." And the third one said, "That's not a shame, or that's not sad. That's damn good budgeting." And that's what we would like to do, good budgeting, but we're never going to die, so we cannot ever be penniless. Because we'll be gone, but the school district will be here forever. So we have to make sure that we have the resources available at all times. So tonight we're kind of in the middle of our kind of a lull for financial numbers. We're finishing up the audit right now. One more day of work of putting together the capital assets and the fixed assets, and we should be all done, and the auditors will report in the first meeting of January of the results, but we pretty much know how they ended up, and we'll talk a little bit about that tonight. So usually in November, as I always try to look back at what was happening a year ago and what's going on right now. And financially, as you remember, a year ago, we had a election at the beginning of the month, and it was the third operating referendum that we did in 6 years. Actually, it was the third we had one in 13, 15, and 17, so it's the third in 5 years. And it was billed as probably the last time we had to go out for operating referendum until the other ones just run out based on their on the length of the operating referendum. So we have 3 of them in place, and they're all 10 years, and the first one was 13, then we had one in 15, then we had one in 17. So we won't have to go back out again for operating referendum until 2023. And as you remember, part of it was renewal of the largest portion of our operating referendum, and that passed. And then we also asked for an additional $375 per pupil, and that passed also. The reason it was $375 is because back in 2014, after we did our budget reductions, we went through and did some projections, and we discovered that in order to fulfill our mission and to have enough resources to do what we need to do, that we needed $900 per pupil in a local operating referendum. The state formula money just wasn't keeping pace. The board had decided that that's a big chunk to chew, a big piece to chew off at one time, so we divided into 2 different elections. One was for $525, which passed in 2015, and one was for $375, which passed in 2017. And then finally, we asked for a capital projects levy, which will ensure us to have at least $2 million per year for 10 years from local levies to outfit and provide our technology needs. So at the end of all that, then we finished up our 2017 audit, and we ended up with a fund balance of about 3.38%, unassigned about 1.77%. Now those are below our fund balance policies, but as you may recall, for the fiscal year 16-17, which was last year, and which was 2 years ago, and 17-18, which is the one that we just finished, we knew that we weren't getting the new $375 per pupil unit until the 18-19 financial. So it was kind of a survival mode, and we just wanted to keep our heads above water. So a year later from last year, well, now, where are we? Well, we didn't have any funding requests from 833, so we didn't have to have any elections. But there were elections going on, and of interest to us financially were probably, who was going to be the governor. The governor is still a member of the DFL party. He has a public education background. So we will see what kind of proposals he makes in his budget. The DFL took control of the House, meaning that now we have one party controlling the House of Representatives, we have one party controlling the Senate, and then we have a DFL governor. So we'll have to see how that pans out, as the governor will take a look at the November forecast and then will present his budget. And then the legislators will wait until the end of January, like we call it the February forecast, before they establish what they call their targets. And we can glean from those targets and budgets what really where the money, if there's going to be new money, namely in the area of state funding formulas. So as we look to the end of 18, it's near completion, and we're projecting that we'll have a fund balance of about 3.46%, or about unassigned about 1.5%. And actually that will probably be a little better since I published this PowerPoint. So what happened in 17-18 that we know of? And these changed a little bit as we were finishing up the books. But I just am really in awe and proud of our staff, mainly our controller who puts these budgets together. They are 18 to 20,000 lines long. They encompass $250 million to $300 million in spending. And she comes in with expenses within, the final expenses came within 0.5%. And actually they came in under 0.5% under, which is always good. But, a 0.5% on expenses comes out to about $1 million or so in our budget. And then our revenues came in within 0.84%, so we kept them both within a 1% ratio, and the expenses came in under about 0.5%. It changed a little bit since I published this, and our revenues came in above about 0.8%, which translates to about $1.9 million. So very, very relieved that they came in that way, because it's always kind of nerve-wracking that we missed something, and suddenly we need $5 million somewhere. But all in all, the budget came in very, very well, and we're very pleased, and I think a lot of kudos go out to Chris Blackburn, our controller, and our staff. The resulting of these two great budget results is that our fund balance is actually going to increase almost $1 million, and we had projected it to decrease in our revised budget by $2 million. So we actually have a change in fund balance of projection, and we beat budget by $3 million. So that's good. And that means that our fund balance should be about $8 million at the end of this year. We had thought it was going to be dropping, because if you remember last time I talked to you guys, one of the principles is conservatism. So you always project the worst and expect it to happen, but it doesn't always happen. And also, so we're very excited that at least we're in pretty good shape. We're always still kind of treading water. We expect the budget to go up by $2.5 million this year based on our budget. Our fund balance to go up. So we're really trying to get to that 10 million mark, and then we know that we're on our way. So that's kind of what we're pushing for. We don't have any new referendum revenues in the 17-18 financials because it doesn't hit until 18-19. The state formula increased 2% in 17-18 and 2% in 18-19, and now we're going to wait to see what happens with legislation, what they'll do with it. And enrollment increased slightly this year. It went up decent last year, but it's not going up as much as we had anticipated earlier. So, like anything, I always find something bad report. So the enrollment isn't doing what we want it to do. We're projecting to enroll about 18,535 in 18-19. It's slightly under budget, so we're going to monitor that and make adjustments if we have to. It is an increase, but it's a very small increase from 17-18. This is just how we project our enrollment. So the highlights for 18-19 budget that's going on is we knew our revenues are increasing by $13 million. 7.5 of that came from the new $375 per pupil unit. We know we have an additional $1 million from our capital projects levy. We used to have one for $1 million. We had 1 year of no capital projects levy. Now we're going up to $2 million. And then we picked up about $3 million from the formula and some slight enrollment growth. But we know expenses are increasing, about $10.5 million from inflation and cost of living adjustments. So at this point, and this may go up a little bit after I looked at the numbers today, but we're projecting about a 4.4% fund balance, unassigned about 2.7. And like I said, we're getting there. To get to 5%, we really need about $12.5 million in our fund balance, and we're hoping to edge over $10 million at the end of 18-19. So you've seen this before. What can change? Staffing can change projections. If we start adding staff faster than we're getting revenue in, enrollment's the biggest factor, as you know. contract settlements, of costs of services, utilities, supplies. Just alone last year, we probably spent almost $500,000 more than budget on removing snow. So don't let it snow.
Hey, wait. Few of us have a snowmobile.
Legislative actions, 1% of the formula for us is about $1.3 million. So when they talk about percents and they say, well, they raise it 1% or 2% or 3%, that's what it means to us, about $1.3 million in new revenue. And then, of course, unfunded mandates from special education, TRA, which is a pension that we contribute to, and PERA, which is also a pension. With that, that was our update for the for November. It's kind of a kind of a $20,000 foot view. Of course, on December 13th, we will have our Truth and Taxation hearing, and in which there we are required to also not only talk about the levy that will be approved, but we also are required to talk about the budget. And as we said before, it's always been the Super Bowl for business managers, so we hope that you get excited to hear that presentation. And I'll leave you with one more that I heard. It's a real simple one for Thanksgiving. Where do you find a turkey with no legs? And the answer is wherever you left it.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Yeah, not a question, Dan. I just maybe a request. I really like that we do these monthly updates and bring that information forward. I think it's great for our community to know how we budget and where we are within our budget. But there's always that one slide I wish I'd ask to have, and it tells where we spend our dollar. And I think that would be very important for the community to understand that in that other slide that we normally share on where we rank with our partnering districts. Just as a report, we right now are the lowest amount of district to put money into administration. So we're 39 out of 39, but we're one of the top 10 putting the money in the classroom. So the limited funds and the funds that we've been given, we are putting it in the classroom. But I really like that one slide that really shows where a dollar goes, because I think that really clearly identifies to everybody where our money is. So I would ask that would just be part of our monthly update all the time. Because again, not everybody watches the same time or is at the same meeting and all that kind of stuff. So.
Anybody else? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Just before Dan goes, though, it is so nice to have a positive budget report as we've gone, and the support from the community. And as we look at where we are spending, I think, as was mentioned early on about the value we try to bring, but Dan has really put in some good things in place, and all the administrators that have worked so hard to tighten what we're doing at the same time trying to provide high quality services for all kids it's been a long road since I've been here, and this is one of the first times we're starting to get back to where we need to be. So thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
9.0 discussion items. We don't have any this evening. 10.0 are action items. 10.1 is the approval of policy 414, and Assistant Superintendent Mike Johnson will join us.
Good evening, Chair Brunette, board members, Dr. Jacobus, and student representatives. The first reading for policy 414 had taken place 2 weeks ago on November 1st. There were no edits or changes suggested at that board meeting. However, prior to that, there were 2 small edits, and then, as we have done before, we had removed the procedures from the policy beforehand. So this evening, administration seeks approval of policy 414.
All right. I will entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
I'll second it.
All right. Moved by Pat, second by Ron. Any questions? Additional comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
10.2 is the approval of our memorandum of agreement between the United Teachers of South Washington County and Independent School District 833, Director of Human Resources, Kevin Witherspoon.
Good evening. So I'm here tonight for the approval of the Memorandum of Agreement between United Teachers of South Washington County Schools and District 833. If you recall, this is, we talked about this in our last closed session 2 weeks ago. So I'm here tonight for the final approval. The Memorandum of Agreement specifies that school readiness teachers will remain in the collective bargaining unit through June 30th, 2019. If the legislature changes the law to require a license for preschool teachers, including pre-kindergarten and school readiness instructors, the district will immediately comply with the law and maintain their inclusion in the teachers' bargaining unit. If the legislature does not change the law to require a license for preschool instructors, including pre-kindergarten and school readiness instructors by June 1st, 2019, when the legislative session ends, the parties agreed that all preschool instructors in the district, including pre-kindergarten and school readiness instructors, will automatically be out of the teachers' bargaining unit effective June 30th, 2019, so long as the district prefers rather than requires a teaching license. The administration recommends approval of the attached Memorandum of Agreement.
All right. I will entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
Second.
All right, so moved by Pat and second by Katie. Anyone have questions, comments? All right.
Okay, we're excited about positively moving forward, so yeah,
All right.
great.
So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
11.0 are reports and comments. 11.1 is the superintendent's report.
Thanks. I wanted to report on where we are with our SPARK program this evening. As you know, SPARK is a crowdsourced innovation program designed to capture the great improvement and innovation ideas that surface each and every day from our staff throughout the district. The program is divided into 3 phases. The first phase is the idea submission phase. All staff members were welcomed and encouraged to submit any idea they had to help improve our system. During the idea phase, staff members were also encouraged to comment on the ideas submitted. The comments could be words of encouragement or suggestions for improving the idea. The author could then alter their idea throughout the process to enhance the idea and make it more intriguing and appealing to others. We had 128 ideas submitted. The second phase is the voting phase, and that's what we're involved in right now. During this phase, staff members can log in and vote for the ideas that they like best. The ideas are presented to them in pairs in a process called pair matrix voting. The staff member is presented with 2 different ideas that are randomly paired together, and the person simply clicks a box to vote for the idea they like best between the 2 presented. All votes are tabulated to surface in ranked order. The ideas sorted from top, the ideas obviously receiving the most votes, to bottom, the fewest votes. The voting window closes tomorrow, and as of this evening, we have approximately 46,667 votes tallied or cast so far. There are over 700 random pairs that could be generated from the 128 ideas. So it's not everyone would vote for every pair that would come forward, but the program is set up that all ideas are presented an equal number of times, and the software does sort and provide a voice to the crowd, so to speak, to lift the ideas up. Then the final phase will be to select the top 3 ideas, and they're sorted by small ideas, which may be ideas that affect a small number of people or are very inexpensive, to medium ideas that would be a little larger, a little bit more expensive, and then large ideas. But they'll surface the top 3, 1 small, 1 medium, large, and those will be studied using the design thinking process. We have teams of staff members who have been trained in design thinking. They'll take those ideas, create the prototypes, and see how to feasibly implement the ideas. Those top ideas will be announced at our all-staff meeting on December 3rd. And I'm excited to see what ideas surface and see our staff thinking put into action, which is the main goal of the process, is to capture those ideas and then put these into action after we've run through the process. We hope to run the program on a yearly basis, with future years bringing in more participation by all staff and bringing solutions and innovations into our system that will create better environments and outcomes for both students and staff. The second thing, just briefly, we'll hear a little bit more tomorrow, but tonight is our second, hopefully annual HBU College Fair, Historically Black College Universities. being held currently at Woodbury High School. We have over 300 people there. We have districts from around the metro visiting. It's Trina Patterson, our coordinator of equity and integration, started this career fair last year, and it was well attended. The word got out this year, so districts were contacting her, and we're really proud of all of the career college fairs that we have. But this one particularly is unique for kids that are exploring the HBCU system. And you may be concerned about the Packer game, and I have been told by my son that the Packers are up 14-3. So.
And who would care?
I don't know. I was very interested. Yeah, thank you.
Actually, I did pick them tonight, so. 11.2, student board reports. We will start with Hannah.
Hi. Can you guys hear this?
It looks green, so.
It is green.
Yeah.
So it should be on.
Oh, okay. So we actually started our Les Mis, as Miss Palodichuk said, and it's going really, really well. And everyone says that it's amazing, and the music that's being played is incredible, and all of the students are really, really enjoying it. And then our winter sports are now starting because all of our fall sports are finished, which is kind of sad, but it's very exciting as well. And then we have 2 swimmers going to state, Callie Coons and Ellie Moss, which is awesome because I think that we often don't have a lot of swimmers going to state, but we have more this year. And then at Eastridge, we're compiling our Raptor Time surveys, which is a time during the day where students can have to go work with teachers and do digital citizenship and just work on other homework, which is a really productive time in the day, and students seem to very much so like it. And our student council did a toiletries drive and raised almost 2,000 toiletries for a Naomi homeless shelter, which is a great contribution back to the community by our entire student body. And then our Christian Athlete Fellowship is doing a dodgeball tournament, which would be really cool to just like get people more involved in activities throughout the school year.
Thank you. Lindsay.
Okay, so as Phil said, we had 7 student athletes sign their national letter of intent. So funny story, I've played with 5 of the 7 in sports. So Brio Olson is going to Concordia University, St. Paul campus for softball. So I played with her, just like growing up and everything. Maddie Meduna is going to Winona State for softball. Saren Croker is going to Creighton University for softball. So I've definitely played with those 3. Charlie Gores is going to UMD for basketball, and I played soccer with him for my very first year. And then Taryn Leonard is going to Upper Iowa. She's playing lacrosse there. Funny story, her dad is the girls lacrosse coach at Park, and each coach says something about their player who is moving on to the next level of their athletic career, and he could not really make it through his little speech, which was super funny, but it was also really heartwarming. And then Mason Porter is going to Lindenwood University for lacrosse, and then Lucas Hoyt is going to the University of Detroit Mercy for lacrosse as well. So Phil kind of put me on the spot because he said he was talking about the clubs and everything, and he's like, Lindsay will tell you about that later. Well, okay. So the Breakfast Club, I actually was the one to start that club at Park. It is Park's first faith-based club. So we are called the Breakfast Club because we meet Wednesday mornings at 7:45, and every week we provide donuts for our people who have come. So just trying to get, that's kind of our calling card is, hey, you come, you get some donuts or whatever. So, yeah, I've been mostly responsible for that. So that's been a really good experience. Winter sports have just started. I came here from basketball practice. So I'm still a little bit warm. Our Hall of Fame introduction is on Saturday, and actually one of my teammates' mom is being introduced on Saturday. And then on November 28th, we have an applaud breakfast, which the applaud breakfast just applauds students who have excelled in the classroom, and I think each section of the school gets to choose one student. So there's only like 13 students who are chosen. And then we ended our fall play, which was the importance of being earnest, and it was super good. I went and saw it. It was super good. And then we have adapted soccer going to state tomorrow night, 6:30 at Stillwater High School in Gym B. And I've been reminded about that like 80,000 times because I get a chance to work with those special education kids, whether it's in gym or after my second hour, because I don't have PSEO those days. I get to work with them and build that connection with them. So that's also something that I enjoy doing at Park, and that's something really special about Park, and just the ability to have those teachers rely on you to take a kid out just because they're not doing well in their class, or get them to do their work if they won't do it for a different teacher or whatever, and then hugs all around all the time. So it's super special that Park gets to let me do that, and then the relationships I get to build with those students as well.
Great, thank you very much. 12.0 are our future meeting dates. 12.1 is our December 13th regular board meeting and their tax, what is it called? Isn't that where our tax and truth and taxation, there you go. And then 12.2, January 3rd of 19 already is our school board meeting. Yikes. So have a wonderful, safe holiday, everyone, because we won't be back until after. So, and with that, 13.0, we are adjourned.
Good.